Believe it or not, this guy actually has friends.
Nice.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, do you ever see something come down the wire and you immediately know it's going to end badly? Like Mike Malone in North Carolina, you just know that's going to end badly. That is a dude that, look, his shtick didn't work in an NBA locker room. It ain't working at North Carolina. And look, I have nothing but respect for him as a coach. I think he's really good. And obviously, he was the head coach of a championship team. But, no, I don't think that's going to work. We'll talk more about that coming up in a bit. Hey, we got some breaking news, Lloyd. Fire up that breaking news sounder I gave. Oh, wait. Yeah, we're still waiting on that.
Yeah,
one.
let me fire it up. Sure. Yeah, I don't need that.
Utah State has made it official. Mason Falslev is back for his final year at Utah State.
That is a great
The mayor
retention.
Is back in Logan. And, you know what? It's a big announcement for Utah State because they've been cycling through coaches like crazy, and another new coach comes to town. For Mason Falslev, when he now remember, people forget that he signed at the University of Utah with Larry Kraskowiak. And then he goes on his mission. In the meantime, Larry Kraskowiak gets fired. But Craig Smith was the one that was really recruiting him hard. So Craig Smith, obviously, no longer at Utah State. Ryan Odom shows up. All right. So you got Ryan Odom for 2 years, the redshirt year for Mason Falslev, and then his freshman year. His sophomore year, he plays for Danny Sprinkle. And then, actually, no, I take that back. His freshman year with Ryan Odom, sophomore year with Danny Sprinkle, and then, of course, the last 2 years hanging out with, yes, you guessed it, Jared Calhoun, and now his final year is with Ben Jacobson. So yeah, it's a little bit of a weird situation. His fourth coach that he'll work with, his fifth year that he'll be associated with in some way, shape, or form at Utah State, and he is back in Logan. Honestly,
by the way, anytime you're able to, with all these changes that Utah State's had, like, with coaches, like anytime you're able to keep somebody like that, that was obviously a big part of the program and of the success, like that is such a huge win. That's a big win for Ben Jacobson.
Well, it is a massive, massive accomplishment. And there's a lot that goes into it, too, because let's be honest here, and we say this about A.J. DeBonta at BYU, you don't get the opportunity to persuade somebody to either come to your organization or stay with your organization if you don't have the financial wherewithal to do that. Now, make no mistake, A.J. DeBonta chose to go to BYU. Mason Falslev is choosing to stay at Utah State. But you have to be in the financial stratosphere of some of the other schools that are going to come knocking at your door if you're going to make it a hard decision for these guys. So the reason I bring that up is that Utah State has made a massive commitment financially to not only secure the services of Mason Falslev for another year, but then also to be able to keep guys like Karson Templin, who's back. And that wasn't an easy re-signing. These guys would have had a lot of money and a lot of opportunities to go somewhere else. And so, and frankly, if Utah State got outbid by $2 million for Mason Falslev, just to throw out a random number, would you have blamed Mason Falslev if he left? If that was your kid, would you blame him? No, absolutely not. But if Utah State comes in with a very sizable offer that makes it a conversation, then of course Mason's going to stay. So I think a lot of this goes to the fact that Utah State has got itself into a situation now where they can compete financially with its peer institutions. Now, look, they'll never have the $10 to $20 million payroll that a lot of P4 schools are working with right now. That's never going to happen, but you will look at a situation where they can go toe-to-toe now with anybody in the Pac-12. So whether it's San Diego State, whether it's Washington State, whether it's Oregon State. Boise State's been paying out a ton of money lately for its NIL. The hope was that Utah State could be in the top 1, 2, 3 of the conference in everything they do, whether it be financially, whether it be success on the court, success on the field. That's where they want to be. And frankly, you heard Jared Calhoun talk about the fact that they were, at about a 2.4, 2.3 million overall payroll last year. And I know people don't like it when I use the word payroll, but, let's be honest, it is what it is. And that helped them compete and win an outright conference title. But guess what? It only gets higher and higher and higher. So as Utah State was able to keep the Barbarians at the gate, that's a big sign for where the Aggies are right now and a big sign of what they're building. But it's also a big sign of where college basketball is going. So 3 years ago, so this was Danny Sprinkle's year. So 3 years ago, Utah State's playing in a tournament in the Cayman Islands. So this would have been in November of 2023. Yep. So 3 seasons ago, November of 23, I'm sitting down at a hotel, and the NIL world is just blowing up. And Utah State really has zero money to work with. And I was talking with Andy Hill, who was an assistant coach with Danny Sprinkle at the time. And we sat down and we were chatting about the world of NIL. And I said, all right. And I'm sure he wouldn't mind me telling this story, but I'm like, between us, how much money would you need at Utah State to be competitive year in and year out in the Mountain West Conference? And he looked at me and goes, this is it's a big number, but if we could secure anywhere from $600,000 to $800,000 every year, we could compete with everybody in the Mountain West in terms of financial. He goes, it's not the top, but it puts us in the top third, and we can compete with that. That was just 3 seasons ago. 3 seasons ago. And now you are well past that. Utah State, who was in the mid part of the Mountain West Conference, was 3 times that number last year, and they hope to double it, if not triple it, going into this season. So I don't know what the future holds, but Utah State's going all in on next year. And if you're Ben Jacobson, you got to have a big smile on your face because you're like, whew, I don't have to turn over a new roster. I don't have to build a team completely from scratch. I've got some pieces to work with, and I should be all right. All right, a lot to get to on the program. Let's get to it. Starting lineup, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
It's time to kick off the show with the biggest headlines of the day. This is your starting lineup on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Another game, another loss for the Utah Jazz. And the Jazz have got themselves in a pretty good spot now where they could fall no further. I mean, well, you look at the odds right now where Utah State is. Where the Utah Jazz are. Worst case scenario, they could fall if the season were to end today. The worst that could possibly happen is that they would fall to 9 and lose their draft pick. But guess what? There is a 0.4 of a chance that happens. Not 4%, not 40%, 0.4 of a percentage point. The Jazz are 99.6% likely to hold on their pick. Now, whether it's 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I don't know. But they have a 99.6% chance, and that number can only rise. It's not going to go worse. It's not going to get worse than that. It can only even get better than that. So,
just curious, what was the Mavericks' chance to get the number 1 overall?
I don't know. That's what I'm kicking myself because I thought about that this morning.
I'm going to figure that out because I feel like it's the opposite or the same, should I say, of getting that number one overall.
By the way,
they got.
You need to text our guy Tony Jones and just verbally slap him around a little bit.
I know.
Did you see what he tweeted out and put out in the universe?
Bad things in the universe.
He's like, if Cooper Flagg and AJ DeBonsa are on the same team.
I don't tell TJ to shut up very often, but stop it. Knock it off, TJ.
Yeah. Look, honestly, if that were to happen, the overall status of the NBA here in Salt Lake City would take a massive, massive hit. The Jazz don't need to win the lottery. They just need to make sure somebody that is close to a play-in situation or the Dallas Mavericks don't win the NBA lottery, because if they do, there will be a full-out riot. And frankly, if you're Dallas, you're like, hey, we gave up Luka. That's the best you can do for us right now. Remember when Cleveland won the draft lottery 2 years in a row after LeBron left?
1.8% chance to get the number 1 overall pick.
Well, at least it's not 0.4.
No, it's not.
That a 1.8.
Wow. Not far off. So it is doable.
And they'll have better odds this year.
Yes, they will.
Yeah. I mean, they go back and, when LeBron left and Cleveland won the number overall pick 2 years in a row. And, if that happens, that's a problem for the league. That's a big problem. You talk about the integrity of the league. That is hurting the integrity of the league right there.
That'll start getting a little fishy because there's just to have 2 years something so improbable happen 2 years in a row. Yeah, I don't think I'd be buying that. If I was a Jazz fan, I'm not buying it.
No.
And I'm like, okay, really?
I could totally understand why they would be ticked off at this point.
Absolutely.
Totally understand that. So the Jazz are sitting in a good place. And let's be honest, the reason I wanted to bring that up is because not to try to jinx the Jazz it's just, look, there were a couple losses. Now, if you're a Jazz fan, you just want them to run the table with losses. Just finish off the year with losses. It's not too much to ask, right? You got 3 more games left, 3 L's. You end the season on a 12-game losing skid. Boom, off the races. And right now, you are tied for the worst record in the Western Conference with the Sacramento Kings. Both teams have 21 wins on the season. So if the Jazz were somehow able to see Sacramento pick up a couple wins, or at least one win, and the Jazz lose out, then the Jazz could fall no further than 8, essentially guaranteeing them their pick in the upcoming 2026 NBA draft. Then we shift all our attention to May 10th, and that's what I think we're all waiting on is the lottery. And I know there's a lot of skeptics out there that think this thing's going to go poorly, and it may very well. But the Jazz do control a little bit of their own destiny down the stretch. And look, you've made it really hard to win games. You've gone out of your way to make sure that you haven't won games. It's been difficult at times. The Jazz have really had to work to ensure that no games have been won over this stretch. You just got to finish strong. And you look at the Sacramento Kings have back-to-back games against Golden State in their next 2 games, one at home, one on the road. And so that's going to be tough to say Sacramento is going to pick up a win somewhere along the way. If you're the Jazz, just end up in a tiebreaker, which the Jazz and the Kings will then flip a coin to see where they will be at in terms of lottery balls, which I guarantee the Jazz will lose. And then we wait and see on May 10th. May 10th is the lottery. So if that's not enough to get you excited about the spring, which I understand if it doesn't, you've got the Utah Mammoth. And when they left on this road trip, Lloyd and I, Jay Stevens, we had a bunch of other people that came on, and we were talking about what is a successful road trip for the Utah Mammoth. All right, what do we consider in terms of points when this team comes back to Salt Lake City after playing 2 really tough opponents in the Kings and the Kraken, both teams that needed those wins, and then you finish off against Vancouver, a game that you should win.
That actually gave them the bigger fight.
Yes, no doubt. No doubt.
When it was 5-4, I was like, oh man,
boy.
This is getting tight. A little tight here.
By the way, how entertaining is that game, though? 5-4. Oof.
Heck of a game.
Yeah,
and they
great game.
ended up finishing 7-4. And I mean, their goal differential, like they really are, they're better than just a regular wild card team. Like
so 19 goals in 3 games on that road trip. 6-2, 6-2, 7-4. That's remarkable. It is absolutely remarkable. But the fact that this team is coming back to Salt Lake City with 6 points in their back pocket on a huge 3-game road trip, in a game that the Kings had to have, in a game that Seattle absolutely had to have, and to go 2-0 in that stretch and then finish it off in Vancouver and to go 3-0 and 6 points really helps solidify. Now, it doesn't guarantee. I'm not trying to jinx the Mammoth now. Look, we're just jinxing everybody right now. But this really does solidify and put it in pencil, not pen, but in pencil, for the Mammoth to be your number one wild card team. But, man, just incredible hockey. This team is playing its best hockey when they're supposed to be playing their best hockey. And you go back, I don't know what it was about that Washington Capitol game where Ovechkin got loose, and then all of a sudden you're up 3-1 in that game, and you end up losing it badly. But ever since then, I don't know if the cage was rattled. I don't know what Coach Bear said. I don't know what happened. But somehow that team got rattled, and they've come out angry, and they've been playing angry. And it's been so much fun to watch.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I rain on the parade a little bit, though?
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Yeah, I don't know if So, right now, if it was to end, who they would play?
Dallas, right?
No.
Who?
They would play Edmonton.
Oh, geez. Are you serious?
The Oilers.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. If it ended, because originally it was Anaheim.
Oh, that's
Anaheim
right. Yeah.
was in that top spot. They've dropped because Edmonton is hot right now. They did lose recently, but they are. I don't know. Anaheim, I feel like there's a real shot they could win that.
Yeah.
Edmonton, I'm not so sure because you have the best player in the game in McDavid.
Yeah, and the NHL.
That's a quality team.
NHL doesn't want their best player with the first round exit.
Right.
Look at us. We're just taking our NBA conspiracy theories and now moving them to the NHL.
I noticed that Edmonton jumped into that one spot. And I was like, man, really? And that's not to say it's not doable. They still have. I mean, at one point they were, their goal differential. They were in the red, and now they have a positive goal differential. Edmonton does. So they've been on fire. They had a 5-game win streak, which I believe started with the Mammoth, but they just lost recently. But it's tight between those two, between Anaheim and Edmonton. But right now, that's where they would finish. They would have to play Edmonton, which that's. But hey, the one good here's your positive side is that the Mammoth are really good on the road, and guess what? You would be on the road.
You would be on the road.
They're really good on the road. I don't understand it. I don't get. I think there is a little bit. I know. We've talked about it with some of our guests in the past. Like I think there is something that where they're. I think even Bill Armstrong mentioned it. That at home there just seems like maybe they're pressing a little bit at home.
Yeah.
Like there is something like a little bit of extra trying to deliver and give a great performance in front of the fans, in front of the home fans, and it just seems like maybe there's a little bit of something that. But then they get on the road and they're loose.
All right,
and they play like it.
So, speaking of Edmonton, coming up tomorrow in Delta Center, traditionally, and this has been a rule of thumb for NBA teams forever. You just count on it. When you're on a long road trip and you come back, that first home game, usually you don't play particularly well. So, the Mammoth on a 3-game road trip, coming back, and they're playing Edmonton with the best player in the NHL. That's going to be a tough one to win. But then after that, you've got the Predators, you got the Hurricanes, all at home. You'll hit the road to Calgary. Jets back at home, Blues back at home. That's a lot of home games coming up for the Mammoth. So, again, you've got 6 games left, and you've got an opportunity to play 5 of those at home. Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about. That Edmonton game is going to be fun, though. We might need to sneak out to that one.
Yeah, I think so.
That's probably a tough ticket to get, though.
Yeah.
I
imagine.
That's one that we need to go cover. You and I can go cover that game.
That one.
Yes. I was out at that game covering it. Yeah.
Yeah. Covering it from front row.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, 12:24. The great Ken Pomeroy joins us next right here on the Zone.
You're locked on to Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Ken Pomeroy is going to join us coming up here in just a moment. But right now, it's time for the Copper Rock Masters giveaway. Be caller number 12 right now, 801-575-ZONE, and you'll be assigned a player in the Masters this week. If your golfer ends up winning the Masters, you'll win 18 holes 4-2 at Copper Rock Golf Course in Hurricane and a $100 gas gift card. Copper Rock, where the pros play. Again, 801-575-ZONE. That's 801-575-ZONE. Lloyd promises not to assign you Tiger Woods. Well, yeah. If he does, then you can bark at him and say, come on, don't do that. All right. As we get you ready for the national championship game Ken Pomeroy will join us coming up here in just a moment. It is Michigan squaring off against UConn. UConn somehow continues to stay alive. Miracle after miracle for UConn. And then you got Michigan, who is just dump trucking everybody. And off we go. Should be a fun one tonight as Ken Pomeroy joins us right now. KenPom.com. Get there now. Ken, is there any way that is there any way on paper that UConn has a chance in this game against Michigan?
It's college basketball. That's the defense we'll give here, right? It's college basketball. Like, if you go to my site, you'll see they have a 27% chance of winning, which is not, wouldn't be the upset of the year. Like, it's in the realm of possibility. It's just like trying to talk yourself into that is the hard part. When you look at kind of the fundamental numbers and you look at what Michigan has done in the tournament. It would be. I mean, if UConn somehow pulls it out, Danny Hurley would be insufferable, and rightfully so.
This time, and he's earned it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just how impressed are you with Michigan on not just that they're winning games, but how they're winning games and just taking everybody behind the whooping shed?
Yeah, absolutely. And so they did this to some extent during the regular season. So, I mean, it's not too surprising, but certainly, like, the Arizona game was just absurd. I mean, from start to finish, it was complete and total domination against a team that, heading into the tournament was basically like the co-favorite with Michigan to win it, along with Duke. So, the fact that they were just so comprehensive in that beatdown, to throw into the mix that, like, Axel Lendeborg didn't really even play in the second half. Like, got a few minutes, but wasn't really himself, and yet did not matter one bit. Like, Michigan is it has been a machine this year for the most part, and only getting better as the season wraps up.
Yeah, and you look at that. Arizona has been so strong and physical and just played bully ball with so many teams that I saw them up close in person when they played Utah State. And just that size was just like, yeesh. But I talked to Jared Calhoun afterwards, and he's reading between the lines, you could tell Jared was thinking to himself, because he's like, I'm really curious to see how this team does throughout the rest of the tournament, because I don't know if he was necessarily sold that style of basketball would end up working for 6 consecutive games and winning a championship. And certainly when they played Michigan, that ended very quickly, but I think that had more to do with Michigan than it did Arizona.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. So, there was always, unless Arizona won at all, right, there was always going to be this day where we were like, that lack of perimeter shooting, really came back to bite them. And, sure, to some extent that's true. And by the way, they played the last 2 games. They get to play Arkansas and Purdue, and Arkansas's interior defense was woeful, and Purdue's was pretty mediocre, and so that really kind of played into Arizona's hands. And then they, kind of got back into the real world against Michigan, and it was like, oh wow, maybe they, got lulled into some sort of false sense of confidence or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I tend to agree with what you're saying. It's like you made the Final Four. I mean, realistically, you were the second best team in the country, let's say. I mean, they just happened to get matched up with Michigan in the Final Four, but it could have easily been in the title game if the bracket was a little different. And so it's hard to really fault the style. I mean, it's personally not a visually appealing style for my taste, but I'm not gonna criticize Tommy Lloyd for getting his team, like I said, the Final Four and really being the second best team in the country.
No doubt. When you look at Michigan overall, and I can't remember exactly where they were at going into the tournament. I'm sure you had them as a 1 seed, but where were they ranked in your rankings coming into this thing?
They were actually 3rd in the rankings. So
okay.
But it was like almost indistinguishable between Duke, Arizona, and Michigan. It's hundredths of a point. So, within, they were basically co-number ones.
When you look at UConn, obviously there's always a little bit of luck involved, and certainly that was the case. I don't want to say luck, but certainly things had to go their way in that win against Duke. And then they beat Illinois by 9. This is probably a really unfair question to ask because there's no mathematical equation. although you do work a little bit in luck, but how much of just a heater, a weird heater, is this UConn team on right now, and what do you attribute it to?
Yeah, I mean, that last possession against Duke, I mean, that'll just go down in history as, one of the wildest sequences in a, tournament game. So certainly, yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, you hate to say luck. I mean, if you were based in, Hartford, Connecticut, Scotty, I would be more careful with my language. But
I know,
yeah. I don't want to offend UConn fans. They've had a tremendous run, and some of it certainly is skill. By the way, I mean, we should point out, it beating Illinois. Illinois had the highest rated offense in the country heading into that game. Illinois has played 37 games this year. 2 games against UConn, they have not scored a point per possession. In their other 35 games, they scored a point per possession 35 times. So
wow, that's a great stat.
Yeah, so that's probably not a fluke, right? There's certainly some skill there, but yeah, the last possession against Duke. I mean, you could dissect that so many different ways. Things that kind of went right for UConn there, in terms of Duke trying to weirdly, advance the ball, and UConn weirdly not trying to foul, and then Braylon Mullins getting the ball. And Braylon Mullins, by the way, for all his hype as being a good shooter out of high school, not a good shooter this year.
Yep.
And then sinks that 3. So I mean, that moment alone was certainly worth a lot in luck. But you can't criticize the UConn system, the culture, their will to win or whatever. It's just that there are other teams out there that have the will to win as well and don't do it. And so certainly some good fortune for UConn, but they are also playing well. And this that's the one thing about this matchup really is you mentioned UConn's defense. Michigan's defense has been great as well. They held Arizona below a point per possession. First time Arizona didn't score a point per possession all season. They held Tennessee to their worst offensive rating of the season. So both of these teams are really playing great defense heading into this final game.
I know you've ran some numbers on this in years past, and I apologize. I can't remember exactly where you came out on this, but you do acknowledge that there is some level of a shooting drop-off when you play in these massive football stadiums, correct?
Right. It's small. I think what I found was it was, 2 to 3%, something like that. And, that was a few years ago, so I don't know where we stand right now. But, I mean, it stands to reason that, I know the basket is same height and same location, but just that frame of reference behind the hoop is a little different. And so, yeah, it stands to reason that, shooters might struggle with that a little bit more than normal. Although you would think at this point, both of these teams have had multiple practices in the building. They played a game there. That effect is probably, to whatever degree it exists, smaller, than it would be, say, the first time they step into the building.
Ken Pomeroy of KenPom.com joining us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Ben Jacobson, the new head coach at Utah State. What do you see from him and what he did at Northern Iowa, and do you feel like that translates into Logan?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, Scotty. So obviously had consistent success. I mean, that's the way I think you would describe it. It's just there was a certain consistency there at Northern Iowa that is appealing. The higher end performances, maybe not there. That's where I would contrast, him from some of the previous hires at Utah State is, Jarrett Calhoun, the most recent one, he came from a place where there really wasn't any basketball tradition, and he took them to the highest point they'd been to, which nationally speaking wasn't very high, but relative to where that program was, is really what's important. And so Ben Jacobson is probably not on that level with his track record. Consistent success at a program that generally has had consistent success. So it's an interesting hire. I mean, I'll own my bad takes, and I once criticized Virginia for hiring Tony Bennett. So, so if I don't sound super excited about this hire, don't take it with any predictive value. But it does seem like it's maybe a little bit different than some of the previous mid-major coaches the university has hired in terms of, the higher end performance of the coach at the program maybe doesn't match up to some of the previous coaches. Is how I'll put that. Yeah.
I was looking at his numbers at Northern Iowa traditionally, and I made reference to him about it where I was like, hey, your teams are always good defensive rebounding. Do you concede other teams, do you concede giving up offensive rebounds in lieu of getting back? And he's like, yeah, if you look at Ken Pom, you see all of our numbers on defensive rebounding in red, or in green, all of our numbers in offensive rebounding in red. And that's traditionally who we've been. And I was like, hey, we just got our first Ken Pom shout out. So he is very well aware of you and the rankings. And he's like, yeah, I look at that quite a bit. And I always kind of see where Ken's got us, whether we're green, whether we're red, and what we got to work on. So there you go. At least Ben's keeping track of what you're doing.
Yeah, that's good to hear. It'll make things less awkward when I meet him. But yeah, for sure. I mean, it's people talk about. I think they talk about the slow pace, and he's been had various years with slower paces than others. Certainly this year played at a slow pace. But obviously, if you're defensively looking to your focus is preventing transition, you're naturally your pace numbers are going to be down. It's I think the first coach, when I got into this first coach, I remember who really was obsessed with that was Rick Majerus. Like, those teams were big, but, they didn't really care much for offensive rebounds in order to prevent transition. And, so it's kind of a similar system and certainly is, what you're going to get with him, and it's been effective. It's been consistently effective. And so I think the floor, is going to be pretty high, I guess, is the best thing you can say. Like, he obviously has a system and can recruit to it and knows what he's doing in that sense.
You bring up, and a lot of people will look at your numbers in terms of D1 experience and how much experience a team has. Does that, when you look in the transfer portal era where guys are shuffling around, they may be experienced, but they're not experienced together, meaning, guys have played 4 years in 4 different schools, and so these guys don't have a lot of chemistry. Does chemistry matter, or does experience just translate regardless of where you're at? If that makes any sense at all. Sorry.
No, that makes a lot of sense. That makes tremendous sense. And that's I think one thing that we've seen. It is tricky. Like, so chemistry matter. Like, all things being equal, if it's a choice between like getting a guy from a different program or keeping your own guy, like if that was the choice, which is not always the choice, sometimes your guy is going regardless. But if you had that choice, right, to bring in a guy of equal ability into your program and chase off somebody from your own program who had that same ability, like there's actually kind of a little bit of a penalty for transfers coming in terms of their performance. So the transfer portal works if you're getting like better players, like kind of significantly better players. So it works for Michigan. Like they put together this like all-star ensemble from other programs, and the fit is amazing. And I don't know what Mick Cronin was doing with the Daymara at UCLA, but Dusty May like unlocked that the talent from him, and that's one way that it works. But also, keeping the same guys works. I mean, Purdue showed that, where probably Purdue had like turned over their roster. Not that it was even feasible to do that, but if they had chased off Braden Smith or whatever and brought in Elliot Cadeau, like, there probably would have been a drop off there. So, yeah, I mean, chemistry matters, but we don't necessarily want to overstate it. Chemistry amongst untalented players, isn't really useful. Yeah.
You having a hard time wrapping your brain around what North Carolina is going to look like with Mike Malone?
Yeah. I mean, that program is in interesting shape. It doesn't seem like the type of hire that would get the donors excited. I don't know. I mean, that seems to be the issue right now, right? Like,
yeah.
For years, it was just that, you'd live off the tradition, and, it didn't necessarily, well, I won't say it didn't matter who you brought in as coach. Like, usually you would get a really good coach. Like, you got Roy Williams in there for a long time, and then Hubert Davis seemed to be like he would be a good fit. And he wasn't a bad fit, but he wasn't a great fit. And at this point in North Carolina, if you're not a great fit,
you're
going
going
to lead to problems.
Yeah, you're looking for a job.
You can't just hire anybody. Yeah, so So I'm curious to see how this will work out, but it's kind of this, new landscape in college basketball. I mean, you still, I guess, like Duke is still Duke, and John Shire has picked up the reins from Coach K. But really, you look elsewhere, like kind of the big name programs. There's just no guarantee that they're going to continue to be successful. I mean, even you look at Kansas, and I guess Bill Self is staying on there, but since they won the title in 22, like they've been through really their, I'd say, worst stretch in quarter century. So it's kind of happening all over. Like, no longer is it just about you get a coach and you have the resources and you have the brand name and you're going to get the best recruits. Like, obviously with the financial situation now, you're going to have to find a way to outbid other programs to bring in talent.
So when you look at the landscape of college basketball, it's interesting, and I've talked to Kevin Young about this, who came from the NBA, and Alex Jensen, who came from the NBA, and I asked them, like, how was the adjustment to deal with the lack of spacing out on the court? And both of them said it was really, really hard to adjust how they coach based on how they were used to being able to coach at the NBA level and the restrictions at the collegiate level. And I think a lot of people just assume, well, they're coming from the pros, so, they should be a great fit in the college game. I don't think people really appreciate just how different the games are between the NBA and the collegiate game.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's definitely, it's gotten better, but I would say, like, less skill on the front line, less spacing, as you mentioned, more physical game. I mean, that's really, the difference you usually hear coaches talk about is that it's just so much more physical because there is less spacing. And, it's kind of the way the game has to be called unless you want to call a million fouls. So certainly it's different in that respect. And, I mean, yeah, you've seen coaches make the transition from pro to college and struggle with it, and also going the other way, go from college to pro and struggle with that as well, though that's a little bit, I think, more about the people managing aspect, where it's just, you can't treat actual professional basketball players, grown men, the way you might instinctively treat 20-year-olds. So anyway, yeah, there's no question. It's, the microphone thing is going to be interesting. I personally like him as a coach, and he kind of got a raw deal at Denver to some extent, but yeah, we'll see how it works out. It's certainly I don't know what other choices they had. I mean, if Billy Donovan wasn't going to work out for them, then who do you go to? There aren't probably that many qualified college guys you'd want to hand the reins over to. So why not take a shot at an NBA guy who has one of the best track records in the league?
Well, hey, we appreciate your time as always. Enjoy the game tonight, and look forward to catching up with you again very soon. Thanks, Ken.
All right. Thanks, Scotty.
You got it. Ken Pomeroy, KenPom.com, right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. What you may have missed coming up next, right here on The Zone.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you might not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
This is Scotty G and Friends on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
What you may have missed right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, all brought to you by Paris RV. See the full inventory at parisrv.com. Now's the time to make that trip across the country in that RV. I'm telling you, Lloyd, that's my retirement right there, is I'm going to get an RV from our guys at Paris RV, and I'm just going to drive across the country. That's it.
And what are you going to do? What's your plan? Just to drive?
Just drive.
You going to go anywhere? You going to go to ballparks? You going to go? What are you going to do?
You know what? I'm going to let the road take me wherever it takes me. Honestly, if I drove into like Topeka and I'm like, hey, this place is cool. I want to stay here for a few days. See what,
this is something you're envisioning with Mama.
Oh yeah, with the missus for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. I obviously didn't think, but like bring some kids along.
Oh,
like, see,
hell no. No.
Thinking about it, doing on a road trip with kids screaming in the back, of the RV has me like, I'm going to have to wait a while.
No, this would just be me and the missus, and we would just drive wherever. Like, hey, look, let's go to Savannah, Georgia. Let's go check that place out. New Orleans, wherever. And you just kind of just travel. That to me is like my perfect retirement. If I got our guy Ethan from Teton Welton here, I'd be like, that's what I need. I need the budget for an RV and a lot of gas money. That's all I want.
You know what? I absolutely. You know what? That's probably up there with me as well.
How about you?
You got the missus with you.
Yep.
You have an empty cup.
Yep.
And some sunflower seeds.
Yep. And a big giant Coke Zero.
And there you go.
And I'm a happy man.
I might go fully leaded.
Oh, wow.
I might go fully leaded.
You're going living life on the edge
I'm going to
now.
live life on the At that point, it's like, I don't even care what's going on to my body. Whatever.
I like it.
All that sure, just give it to me.
Just give it to me.
Just give it to me.
Are you because I know PK's on the route to check out all the baseball parks.
Oh, I'm nowhere near.
I know, but is that the goal of yours, though?
You know what? I think it would be really sweet. I just don't know how attainable that is. Now, maybe Ethan can work some magic for me. Maybe that's doable. But I just don't know. That's a lot of ballparks. Like he's been checking off ballparks for a while.
Yeah, it's taken him a while.
He's been able to kind of do it with the kind of the profession that we're in and some of the traveling that he does with that. It's allowed him to do that too. Like that's a lot of ballparks. And I think I've only got like maybe 4, 5 checked off.
Yeah, I think that's
if even that.
I think I'm at like 4. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm like right around there, and it's all stuff that's on this. There's 2 in California that I've been to. No, 3 in California. I've been to Coors Field.
I have not been to Coors.
Oh, really?
Surprisingly,
that's a pretty.
Yeah,
good.
So I'm thinking off the top of my head.
I think that might be it.
Anaheim, Dodgers, San Diego, Wrigley, and weirdly enough, Pittsburgh. I was there for a Blaze game, calling it Blaze game. So, yeah, I've got 5.
And that one, by the way, is a completely different ballpark now.
Yeah.
I've seen the pictures of it. Looks phenomenal.
Yeah. All right. What you may have missed right here on the Zone. Hey, Cooper Flagg putting on a show over the weekend. Goes for 50+. And then last night against LeBron goes for, I believe it was 41. And trying to make a last ploy for Rookie of the Year. He would not have my Rookie of the Year vote. Cooper Flagg's going to have a lot of stuff going right for him. This dude is on pace to be a multiple all-star, a guy that we'll consider 4 or 5 years from now in the conversation as one of the best players, if not the best player in the league. I mean, I know we joke about Hall of Fame, but if he stays on this trajectory, he'll be a Hall of Fame player. Those are all great things that are going to come his way. I have no doubt about that. And probably in the long run will win a couple of championships along the way. So he'll have all of that.
I think I know where you're going.
But Con is the Rookie of the Year.
Absolutely.
Con has got a better body of work, and he deserves Rookie of the Year. Don't give Cooper Flagg the Rookie of the Year just because he's made this late season surge and he's the flavor of the month. If you look at the overall body of the work, who got off to a better start, who has been more consistent, it's Con Knippel. Give it to Con. Let Con have this one. Cooper's going to take everything else, and he'll earn it, and he'll deserve it. But give Con the Rookie of the Year. If you're a voter out there, let Con have this one. That's all I'm asking, because he's earned it. He deserves it. I just don't want people to get all flashy
you
over.
You think the recency bias is going to?
Yes, I do. I honestly think it will. And I hate it. It bothers me because I think Con has been the much better player overall through the course of the season. Look, the ceiling's way higher for Cooper Flagg. We all know that. I'm not even saying Con Knippel's a better player. I'm not even saying he's a better player right now. I'm just saying he's had a better season from start to finish than Cooper Flagg has. All right, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Hey, you know what? As long as the Mammoth keep winning, we're going to keep chatting with this guy. Jay Stevens joins us next right here on The Zone.